Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I'm Adam. A little bit different because, let me see, I'm recording this the day after I saw the movie rather than immediately after seeing the movie. Because yesterday there was a little bit of a deluge that kind of, ruined recording, recording conditions. So here we are. We have The House with a Clock in Its Walls, which it was a good movie. It was entertaining. I think that one of my biggest problems with this movie comes down to the fact that there's a lot going on and a lot of exposition that goes into it. And I think fantasy is a genre better suited for books or for TV shows where you can fully explore the rules of the universe and the rules of how everything works and the backstories and all of that. Because fantasy itself always lends itself to have these very intricate and deep backstories into how everything came about and how we got to the point where we are today. Like in this movie, for example, there is a fucking ton of exposition. Like on 4 separate occasions, they do flashbacks to the same event, but giving you different amounts of information to tell you what's going on. And only what you need to know at that point to understand the story is ever explained. One of the other problems I have with this movie is a fundamental issue that you get with a lot of kids' books about this and kids' fiction. With this thing, where you have a kid who's introduced to this world that he really should keep a secret. But the kids also, because it's gotta be appealable. I don't think that's a word. It's gotta be the book has to appeal to children who read books, obviously, which this is a book. Kids who read books tend to be more socially outcasted from everyone else. So to make it relatable, like the main character of the book will always be someone who never quite fits in properly. So that way the reader can put themselves into their shoes. So what happens is the kid acts the way a kid in a situation would, which is they'll go and in an attempt to be friends and make friends with people, they'll use what they found to make themselves look cooler. Because, like, even to an extent, Homecoming does this. Spider-Man Homecoming does this, where Peter Parker's a loser. He has no friends. He's got Ned, but that's it. But then he goes and what's it called? He's like, oh, he knows Spider-Man, and I rolled my eyes when that happened, when Ned announced that he knew Spider-Man to I forgot her name, Liz. Liz was her name. So I feel like this is such a cliche at this point, where and then because of him doing this, it kind of sets the whole second half of the movie in motion, because he goes and he he brings the kid to the house, this little dicky kid. He brings him to the house. The kid finds the forbidden magic thing and is like, ooh, can we do this? And it turns out the book is necromancy. The book then leads them to leads them to the grave of the bad guy to resurrect him because he died earlier. Which I feel like there's a better way to have gotten to that, especially considering that the wife of the bad guy, I'm going to spoil the hell out of this movie, the wife of the bad guy, who wasn't really dead the whole time, was manipulating his dreams to make him see his dead mother and have his mother give him advice. There is a better movie where you have her doing that and manipulating him to get the book himself. That way it gives him more. I think that would give the character more autonomy and make him feel like he's actually doing something for the plot and not acting on it in the way a child would to make himself seem cooler. And it would seem less contrived to do it that way too. So I think that if possible, we could just put a back burner on this. We're going to be cool, so we're going to introduce kids to something we really shouldn't, because it's like we really shouldn't do this thing is getting really annoying, because then the kid fundamentally knows that whatever he's doing, he shouldn't be doing, and he knows it for a good reason, even if he doesn't know what the reason is. Fundamentally, it's in their mind that they shouldn't be doing this, but for popularity's sake, they're gonna go and do it anyway. Which I always hated that in books and in movies, and it happens here again. And it was just I kind of rolled my eyes when it happened. Who else was in? What else was good in this movie? Jack Black was very good in this movie. He's very funny. I feel like you can do a kids movie without doing shit and fart jokes, um, especially what could be fantasy. And the problem, and again, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning, with fantasy needing to be explored more, they really don't explain how anything works in it, and it feels like the what's it called? They put and it's like it's kind of like Doctor Strange, but less explained. Where Doctor Strange is just like there's a line in Doctor Strange that was very familiar in this movie where it's like he traps Calicius, or however you pronounce his name, in the mirror dimension, and then Mordo goes to him like, "You fool!" Like the dark magic users draw their power are more powerful in the mirror dimension, and just like, okay, sure, why not? Like that happens here, where at the end of the movie they're trying to what's it called? They're trying to find the clock that can turn back time on all of humanity in the entire world and bring it back to a natural state. It's like they go and he goes, "Oh, it's guarded by a witch's hex. No warlock or witch can find it now." It's like, all right, fine, whatever. But like, don't introduce that and then immediately have it overrun by some other nonsense in the next scene, where it's like, it goes from there and then it's like, well, I'm not a witch or a warlock. Can I do it? It's like, I feel like that's a very dumb thing that definitely would have been tried at some point in the past for overriding a witch's hex, considering this is supposed to be thousands of years old, and then in later scenes they show that he's been the bad guy, played by Colin McLaughlin. He got his powers from Azazel, the demon. And it's like, all right, sure, but like that's a lot to introduce all at once. If they could have kept it where it was a very powerful warlock who gave him the powers, but they go with Azazel instead, and there's nothing really leading up to that point that indicates that demons are in the world. So it's just a really weird decision, and a lot of it is kind of sprung out of nowhere, and you just kind of gotta roll with it. But there's no real time for you to understand it. Also, at the very end of the movie, this was really weird, and I don't know why it needed to happen, especially considering something similar happened in Sky High, and you could have just done it in Sky High, and it wouldn't have been an issue, because it wasn't funny, it was creepy. Like, the power is that they can, they're turning back time, so one of the first people to get hit with it is Jack Black, and he turns into a newborn baby, but with current Jack Black's head. And it's not funny. It's just really weird looking and unsettling. And I don't know if that was the point. I think it was meant to be funny, because like then it's like the baby pees, and it's like, it's meant to be funny, but it just comes off as weird. So that's one of the other things I wanted to bring up with this, is that you could have just done like Sky High and had them turn into children and just had them be little babies, and that's the end of it. One other thing I wanted to address with this movie that's worth pointing out, the movie, it was introduced by, I didn't see the version that had the IMAX thriller with it, because I didn't see it in IMAX, but the movie is introduced by the director Eli Roth, and then Jack Black, Cate Blanchett, the little kid, and then the woman who plays his mother, and they're all talking about how great it is to go and see the movie in theaters, and how this is their art and you're supporting it. I really wish more movies would do that. Especially kids' movies. So the last movie I saw that did that was Edgar Wright introducing Baby Driver. And I think that for some kids, that's going to be a moment where they realize that they can get into, and they can make movies. And that's an important thing to really, not push on kids, but if they're going to the movies and you're bringing your kid to see it, and now you're giving them an opportunity to see the people behind the scenes, because maybe they didn't know that there was someone else behind the scenes. There was an Eli Roth, and it puts a face to the name in the credits, and I think that will help them really explore if they want to get into that. Especially something that's considered doing it, animated movies, like the voices behind the characters doing it. Like, I remember when I was a kid, one of the things that like really made me interested in movies was at the end of the Peter Pan VHS, there was this documentary about how they made it. And it was the first behind-the-scenes documentary I ever watched, and it was made short. It wasn't a recent one because they had a lot of footage and a lot of interviews and stuff from when they were making the movie initially back in the 50s. But it's a good way to show that, like, this is a very helpful tool for kids, and it's just a short thing you can do and add before your movie that will. It's just going to illustrate to them. We're not. These things just don't come out of nowhere. We're doing this, and it's for you, and we can, and you can do this too. So I wish more movies would do that. But if you haven't seen this movie in theaters, if you have kids, I would definitely recommend you see this. I'm not going to see Smallfoot next week, only because I have a very limited tolerance for animated movies, and I don't think Smallfoot's within that tolerance, based on the trailers that I've seen. Maybe I'll see The Grinch, though, because The Grinch actually does look like it could be funny. So we'll wrap it up there. I haven't picked Friday's movie yet because everything looks like shit. So possibly gonna be what's it called? Possibly gonna be Fahrenheit 11/9. I really don't want to do a political movie, but I guess because I don't want to do Smallfoot, don't want to do Life Itself. I feel like it's a slow week because Halloween's not for a few weeks, and I really don't want to do Hellfest when that comes out. I think that comes out Friday. Because that looks like a shitty movie, too. Oh, well, we'll figure something out, and I'll tweet it out at AdamTaylor792. This is the second episode this week. Again, we didn't have the passcode for the giveaway for Justice League, the Ultraviolet. It's actually not an Ultraviolet. I keep calling it that. It's a Movies Anywhere code. So it's only open to people in the United States who can redeem it. And in one of the other episodes this week, either tomorrow's Thursday or Friday, there will be a code to email into 30minutereviews@gmail.com, and at that point we will I'll randomize everyone who submits the code correctly, and we'll pick one winner out of it, and they'll get the code. So we'll wrap it up there for The House with a Clock in its Walls.